Welcome family, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Authentically Being Ava. I'm Ava. So family, music has shaped all of our lives. But I want to talk about my experience because I think it's a little unique. At least unique for the area in which I grew up in. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. And it was interesting. You know, it's amazing. The things that you're exposed to is all you know. So when you then see that there's other things out there, it's like, whoa, what is this? You know, this is interesting. You know, this is amazing. But I had to get there, you know, so a little bit of background of when I grew up. So when I grew up in DC in the 70s, the 80s, I became a teenager and a young adult in the 90s and all that, right? So, but in the 70s and 80s, so family, everything, for me anyway, was Motown. Everything was R&B, gospel music. That was it for me. That was the span of the music, and don't get me wrong, I loved it, but that was all I knew. And I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, so you know, that was pretty much all. You know, every now and then I would hear reggae, you know, here and there, but for the most part, oh, you know what, I'm about to get beat up. Let me back this up. So I also was exposed to some pre-go-go, okay? So in the 70s, I remember going to school, coming home from school, well, mainly coming home from school, and seeing the kids with the soap boxes turned upside down, and they had the little sticks banging on them and trying to, you know, learn how to play the drums and stuff. So I was exposed to that, and let me tell you, I was annoyed. I'm just gonna be honest, because I didn't know what was going on. I'm just like, okay, I guess they're trying to, you know, have fun, you know, because back in those days when I was growing up in the 70s, we stayed outside. Everything was outside. It's a totally different scene today. But when I was growing up, everything, we were outside skipping rope, jumping double dutch. We were racing each other up and down the street. We were playing kickball. You know, we were doing some of everything. We had our skates, skateboards, we were just, our bikes. Look, we lived outside, okay? We came in the house only to use the bathroom and get a snack, leave back out. You know, we were back at it, you know? So, but that was my experience. So, like I said, all of the music was great. I mean, Motown, and then there was like Aretha Franklin and Smokey Robinson and Temptations and the Four Tops. I mean, so then we got to the era of like Shaka Khan and Prince, and I mean, just some beautiful music. Of course, Jackson 5 and then Michael and everything. So I mean, I was loving, you know, my music, my era, and I couldn't get enough, right? So I was into, you know, the radio big time, you know, seeing who's what songs playing where, what, you know. Then I was learning how to dance, you know, and all this, you know. I tell you, becoming a teenager, all of that. So I remember my mom had bought me a radio, and a personal radio. So I was all excited. My mom had her, you know, her stereo set and her record player and cassette tape and all that. So had my radio, and I was excited. So, you know what teenagers do, they go in their room and close the door, okay? And that's that. That's all I needed was something to eat and my radio, okay? And I was good. So back in those days, in the like late 70s, early 80s, in the DC metropolitan area, we only had 3 R&B radio stations. So there was, and this was FM radio. We had OK 100, 95.9 KISS FM, I believe, 93.9, I think, yeah, and WHUR. And yeah, amazing, right? Only three stations. And On the AM dial, the AM station, which we hardly never listen to. I'm just like, really? They would play like gospel music and they would have news and it just would sound real, I don't know, Morse code-ish. I don't know. It sounded like a transistor radio or something. It just sounded really old and out of date. You know, teenagers back then, look, teenagers don't want to hear no AM stations, okay? We don't want to listen to no AM stations. We out the door at that point, right? So that's what we had, and that was cool. So I'm busy flipping stations, you know. My song and came on. I'm like, oh shucks, look, song done gone off. I'm on to the next station, turning to see what's playing. Oh, family, this got me. This was when things started to change for me. When I noticed that, and this was so strange, I don't know if anybody else remembers this, who, you know, grew up in this era. So I noticed that these three stations would play the same songs basically at the same time. And I'm just like, what is going on? You know, I can see, you know, something like that happening every now and then, you know, because there is no, well, who knows how things are set up in the radio stations, how they play their music. But I'm just saying, if you're just playing random music, every now and then that could happen, that you could have a song that another station was playing, you know, just play it right at the same time. But this was going on for an extended period of time. I mean months and months. I'll say this, I was annoyed, okay? I was like totally annoyed, like, how is this possible? This song just came on this station, now it's playing on this one, and it just went off on the other one. So anyway, so this is what transitioned me to listening to other music. I know it sounds as crazy as it does, but like the 80s, look family, I know that they look, put it in the comments, those who can relate to what I'm saying, because I know that this is a unique experience that I had. There's a lot of kids that I grew up with. When I used to tell them about the music that I was liking, the new music, they would just look at me like I was crazy. You know, like, what? You know, So, even my family. So I'm gonna tell you about that later though. I'm gonna get to that later. But yeah, so I started just going up the radio dial, seeing what else was on. Maybe there were some other stations that I hadn't discovered yet. And yeah, I started to stumble upon some music that I'd never really heard of. And around the 80s, the early 80s, is when MTV burst onto the scene. So that, you know, for me, listening to alternative types of music, watching videos, you know, and then you get to see the artist perform the song that you just listened to, you know, something that you've never heard before. Look, family, I was in love. I was like, man, this is cool. There was MTV, and then there was Radio Soul, I think that's what it was called, with Donny Simpson. That was really nice too. So like I said, I'm going up the radio dial out of frustration because I'm not getting to hear the music that I want. And man, I started listening to some artists and I was like, man, this doesn't sound too bad. Like, you know, got a nice little beat and, you know, all that. And some of it kind of, you know, mimicked R&B music, you know, some of these white artists. And it sounded good though, you know, it didn't sound crazy. And I was here for it. I was like, okay, this sounds pretty good. I was listening to music like Journey, Steve Perry. Oh my God, that voice. Man, look. It was Genesis, family. Genesis. Phil Collins, before he left and went solo, he was with Genesis, family. They cranked. Phil on those drums, and family, that voice, the horns, oh my gosh, killed it. George Michael. So, you know, that's right around that era where there was a lot of music that's exploded. We had, so in the DC metropolitan area, we had go-go music that was kind of starting to really get going. And I'm gonna be honest, and I might get bashed for this. I love go-go now, okay? Let me just tell you that, okay? those drums, that's my roots, okay? That's in my spirit, okay? I always loved Chuck Brown, but I don't know, it was just at a period in my life when I was just exploring all kinds of things. And you know, some of the mentality, not all, some of the mentality that went with go-go music, I didn't care for. I'm just gonna put it that way. But yeah, at my core, my heart, yeah, go-go music, wow. I mean, and it's still around, and it still sounds awesome. And it has changed a little bit. It has grown and matured, and it's expanded. I don't know, it's grown antennas. Hey, okay, I love it. Now, growing up, at first, when that thing was getting started, when I'm coming up and down the street, and these kids on these drums, and I'm just like, will you shut up? No, that was just, look, growing pains. But no, I love all the respect for it. I love it. But so, like I said, in the 80s, we had like an explosion of everything. So in the local area, we had like go-go music. Then there was rap music that had just exploded on the scene. We just had MTV. And so then you got, you know, exposure to other types of music, you know, and videos and stuff. And then of course you had the R&B, like Latin music and salsa music. Hadn't really come on the scene yet. I didn't really know a whole lot about it, you know, but that came later, and I love that as well. Oh my gosh. I'm just saying, I just love music. Classical music, I love too. Some of it I really do get, not all of it, but some of it is like an acquired taste, and it's totally different, but nice. But our family, the groups that I fell in love with, family, let me tell you, in addition to my first love, R&B music, and some gospel music too, I really did enjoy. I was listening to music like Queen, I think I said the Eagles already, Chicago, Bruce Springsteen, Jefferson Starship. I mean, there are some folks that have some really fierce voices. I mean, it's not, I remember when I got introduced to some of this music, and I was like, oh my God, I love it, you know, and I ran and was telling my cousins about it, you know, I'm like, listen to this. And this was all before the whole explosion of MTV. And so, yeah, I'm telling them about this music and all this, and they're like, ew, what's that? That sounds crazy. What are you listening to? You're so weird. You're just trying to be white, you know. And I just was like, wow, okay, well, everybody has their own taste, you know, obviously, but that did hurt my feelings a little bit, but it's okay, because I learned later that it was all about exposure. You know, if you're not exposed to certain things, if it's not shown to you that it's okay to like, then people aren't gonna like it. I don't, you know, but everyone's different, and I get that. I wasn't necessarily exposed to it. I just kind of stumbled across it and realized that, hey, I kind of like this, and I want to listen to more. So, yeah, so like I said, and then with MTV, you know, all the videos and stuff, and you get to see these particular songs that you like, and then here, all of a sudden, here's that video, you know, Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac, and what was that movie? Saturday Night Fever, family. The Bee Gees, that soundtrack, Saturday Night Fever, that whole soundtrack was amazing. And more than a woman to be. More than a woman. I loved it. You know, there have been many jokes about the voices of the Bee Gees, you know, sounding all high-pitched and whatever, but they harmonized so well. And then with the music, and then the movie and all, family, look, the 80s and 90s, the 70s, the 80s and 90s were amazing for music. I mean, everything happened during that period. There was so many changes. It was an awesome thing. And for me, little old girl in DC, child, only child, with her little radio, and look, I was in heaven. I'm like, whatever. Y'all don't want to go play jump rope, whatever. I'm going to be in here listening to Journey and the Eagles and the Eurythmics. and whatever else. But yeah, family, that was my experience. And look, let me tell you this part. This is the part that tripped me out, okay? There was a point, and I don't remember what year it was, but there was a point where those 3 radio stations, those 3 R&B stations that we had in the area, they started to transition. And obviously it was around the 80s. A lot of the R&B, all of the R&B stations started to play what they call now blue-eyed soul. So it was these same artists that I was listening to, that I was starting to like, oh my God, that sounds good. They started playing those songs on the radio stations, on the R&B radio stations. And family, it was a major hit. They became popular, even more popular than they already were. We were hearing songs from people like Bobby Caldwell, like again, I think I said before, Queen, George Michael, the Doobie Brothers. I mean, the list goes on. Who else? Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel. Remember Sledgehammer? Oh man, that thing was smoking. And even today, and that's why actually I did this video, because I recently ran across some of the music. You know, I was looking at YouTube and was thinking about Sledgehammer. I was like, let me go see some of these videos again. And the music, I just was in a trance, like, but family, that music was and still sounds good. Good music. And it sounds so good today too, because the stuff out here today, family, yeah, those around my age range know what I'm talking about. It's just not there. You know, we kind of reach back to the good stuff. I was like, oh, I forgot about some of this stuff. Like Phil Collins, like I was saying, just, the music was just outstanding. And Sting, the Police. He started with the Police. Family, and I know I'm missing some more artists, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. And like I said, I love my R&B. That's gonna never change. I still listen to R&B today. Some of the artists are still out here doing their thing. Chaka Khan is still rolling. Man, she still sounds good. Some of the stuff from the legends that aren't here anymore, Whitney Houston, Luther, you know, Barry White. Oh my God. So yeah, I love it all. I love it all. There's no competition, no this or that, or no. It's an appreciation for all music. You know, I love it. You know, it just stimulates the soul. You know, good music. But yeah, family. That was my experience in the DC area. I love music, so I'll listen to it all. Like honestly, I'm not knocking country music. I just was never a big fan. I listened to some of it, and some of it isn't bad actually. Some of it really isn't, but I'm just not a major country music fan. But I know that there are a lot of people out there that are, so kudos to you. But pop, like rock music, yeah, I really was into that a lot. Yeah, family. So anyway, family, thanks for listening. Look, put in the comments if you had a similar experience growing up in the DC area or wherever you grew up. What were some of your favorite songs growing up, or some of your crossover artists, if you had any, and some of your favorite R&B artists, you know. Put it in the comments. Yeah, that period, that was just a magical period. And you know, I even have friends that are in their 30s now, and they say that they love the 80s and 90s music. And I'm like, you weren't even born yet. What are you talking? But, you know, when the music came out. But again, that's just how it is. When you grow up listening to the music that your parents listen to, that's how it happens. But yeah, that was a magical era. Family, thank you for watching. I I appreciate you as always, and please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video, family. Take care.